Happy Wednesday to everyone tuning in to today's episode of the Hirewell Update. I'm your host, Ryan Brown, Vice President of our Corporate Functions team, and this is my co-host.
I'm Emily Goor, Director of our Go-to-Market Recruiting team.
Before we kick off the show, you can find all of our content at talentinsights.hirewell.com, or if you'd like to learn more about Hirewell and our service offerings, check out our website, www.hirewell.com. Well, let's kick it over to our Talent Insights. We're in Q4, which is crazy. Where is time going? How is it Q4 already? I need answers.
I need answers too. It turned October last week. And I know it's been a minute since we've chatted. I was out of town.
Yep.
And got married. How many times am I going to say that today? I could say it over and over. So we're excited. This is actually the first time that you and I are sitting down together in October.
Yes.
In the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. And I know I was sitting down also with a client the other day. We kind of have like some quarterly business reviews with clients. So it's great to touch base at the beginning of a new quarter. And
absolutely,
strangely enough, we actually were starting to discuss like their 2025 hiring plans and like what we needed to be doing now for 2025.
I know, same. I mean, I've been doing those quarterly business reviews as well, and a lot of companies have 2025 top of mind, and we're meeting with a lot of organizations that are wanting to start discussing what planning for talent next year looks like. And essentially, a lot of those conversations are focused too on what's the proper timeline to hire if they want to have a team that's fully ramped up and ready to go by Jan 1.
Yeah, I feel like we actually get that question a lot in general.
We definitely do.
Just like if I want somebody to start this date, when do we need to start hiring? If I want somebody fully ramped up this day. And so I think the biggest time of year we have that conversation is now when it comes to that question that you just mentioned. I want somebody fully ramped January 1st, right? For the start of 2025. When do I have to start hiring? We've had these conversations so much on the go-to-market side of recruiting. And honestly, at least for sales roles, if you want to hire for a ramped up team in 2025, you need to be hiring now. Like you actually maybe needed to start like last week, but like I think
behind the April.
Yeah, you're a little late. No, but if you work backwards, just thinking about the timeline, you want a salesperson to hit the ground running and actually start selling come January, right? You need to take into account interviewing folks. So depending on your interview process, that takes 2 to 4 weeks, right? Like we can usually get you folks within like 5 to 10 business days, depending on the search, sooner. About a week once you get to the offer stage after that interview process, 2 weeks notice-ish. Some folks these days like to give a little bit longer depending on their level. Folks who are interviewing now will likely start in November, which gives them a few weeks to onboard, to train. We know with sales folks, there's kind of that ramp period. So you kind of see where I'm going here. If you want somebody fully ramped and ready to go, like onboarding trained, let's go. Q1 2025, let's go now. I know you mentioned that's what we see like a lot on the sales side of things. Like, what are your thoughts on the corporate function side of recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly seeing similar timelines for different roles. So for example, on the HR side, on the administrative side, the timeline that you laid out is exactly what we would see for those types of positions. Again, depending on level, the higher up we go, if we're looking at VP level searches and above, we're always going to have a longer period of time for those searches. Just in general, it doesn't really matter the time of year. I will say though, I joked about being behind the 8 ball when you were chatting, but if you're looking to hire finance and accounting folks before Jan 1, you are behind the 8 ball. Those searches take such a long time. Number one, just in terms of like sourcing, there's a shortage of F&A folks out there. That's a topic for another day.
You should write that down.
But because of that, and the bottleneck that we continuously see in the market, it's going to be challenging to get people in seats fully trained, ready to go by Jan 1 at this time. Not completely impossible. I'm sure we can find some luck out there, but overall, I think in general, we're on, similar timelines. I have noticed, though, I'm sure you've noticed this too, because we've been having all of these conversations with clients and potential new partners, that there is an uptick in overall recruitment support. And I think what that has typically meant in years past is that we would likely see an uptick in actual recruiter job openings, but
Okay.
that hasn't really been necessarily the case this year. We've actually seen an uptick in a request from our clients for RPOs.
But before you keep going with RPOs, I'm familiar with RPO, and I know a lot of people in the talent acquisition space know what RPO stands for, but dive in a little bit for us. Just explain
Yeah.
what RPO is.
Of course. Well, it stands for recruitment process outsourcing. So, simply put, what that means is our clients are essentially borrowing our internal recruiters here at
Mhm.
Hirewell, who are then fully assimilating, acting exactly as like an internal resource for our clients for an extended period of time. So, as opposed to bringing on a full time recruiter with a salary and all of those other things, they're using us to help them get through essentially hiring periods and higher volumes where they need support. Like
Mhm.
we mentioned, organizations are already preparing for Q1 and those hiring initiatives, which are starting to kick in this quarter. So they're thinking proactively about how they can get through that hiring push, which is resulting in us providing more services from an RPO standpoint.
Yeah, it's great. And it's an incredible service that Hirewell offers. If you ever want to chat more about that, like you said, instead of hiring a full time recruiter yourself or even a
Mhm.
contract recruiter yourself, we already have fabulous experienced people that do that. So we
Exactly.
we will do it for you. So I mean, it's always great to get behind the why, right? We like to
Mhm.
talk about the why in this show. Why do you think it's beneficial to start hiring now in order to achieve like those TA goals for quarter 1 in 2025? I know
Mhm.
we've already kind of started to hit on this.
Totally. Yeah. We already talked about the timeline and you walked us through that in some pretty good detail. So if you really want people to be fully ramped up to start the year, you have to get them in a seat ASAP in
Yeah.
Q1. Q4 tends to be slow for many organizations. So I always think it's the best time to onboard new people because your current employees already have more bandwidth to train and onboard new employees. Business is usually and typically a little bit slower, so there's more time to dedicate to things like training and onboarding activities. And I think on the other end of that, things move so quickly come like the new year and just new quarter. Like we were just talking about, oh my gosh, we can't believe it's already
Yeah.
Q4, we're in October. This essentially gives people a really good runway to get into a good flow of like, here's my day to day. This is what my role is going to look like. Business is a little bit slower, so I get time to acclimate and get up to speed in many ways. This allows them to really get that solid understanding of what their workflow is going to look like and feel
Yeah.
like. So when Q1 hits, they're ready to roll.
Yeah, they're not like drinking from a fire hose when like we
Exactly.
all know beginning of the year is absolutely insane. I think people are so in and out of the office during quarter
Mhm.
4 also that like
Mhm.
it is a great time for just like training, onboarding because once everyone's back Q1, it's like go, go, go. We are in it. So it's so great to get all that stuff out of the way. And I think from a culture perspective too, I know we always like to kind of give the different viewpoints,
Mhm.
but bringing new employees into your company like before the holidays and actually allowing them to experience how your company observes and celebrates holidays, it's simply fun. Like,
It
sorry if I couldn't
really
have said
is.
it more eloquently, but like, it's
It
just fun.
is
Like, it's
fun.
great for employees to have that experience right off the
Mhm.
bat. You know, I think that it honestly can lead to like new employees buying in sooner and then longer, long-term retention. So, I mean, something that seems so small, now you're like leading to like retention of
Mhm.
employees, I think can be huge, especially if companies are in office
Mhm.
doing fun things during the holidays. Honestly, even virtual celebrations. Like I know like my team does like a fun virtual celebration. I think having the opportunity to just meet people during
Mhm.
such a fun time of year at a company just gives kind of new employees the ability to create like stronger connections with their new colleagues.
I couldn't agree more. Actually, funny enough, I started at Hirewell 7 years ago this coming December, and it was the best time to get started for all of the reasons
Yeah.
that we mentioned too. So, speaking from experience, I know that that's the right time. Number
Yeah.
1 for candidates to make a move, number 2 for employers to bring on new staff. It was a great time for me to get up and running, and everyone had bandwidth to help me get started. So, I
Yeah,
can
I'm
speak
similar too.
about
Like
that.
holiday,
Yeah.
I remember being thrown into like our first holiday party, which I've like, maybe at the time was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to a holiday party. I don't know these people. But like
Mhm.
in hindsight, it was such a good way to get to know people and just kind of
Exactly.
get thrown in, like get, just familiar with people on a personal level too, which just gave me a
Completely.
stronger connection to Hirewell in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely agree, completely agree. Well, I know we've talked about all the positives, in terms of
Mhm.
hiring in Q4, and those all remain true. But, it wouldn't be a show if we didn't flip the other side of the coin and kind of walk through a few things as well. So, we think that hiring in Q4 is the best. It's a great time to hire, but
Yeah.
it doesn't come without its challenges. It truly doesn't. And there's a few things to take into account. Now, these aren't major roadblocks where you still can't get hiring done, but it's things to be aware of as you think about bringing on talent for Q1.
Yeah. Always
So
going to be two sides of the coin, right? Like
exactly.
that's why we're here to be
Yes.
proactive, tell you what to look out for.
Yeah, and to talk about some solutions too. So,
Yeah.
you referenced people taking time off. That can sometimes be a challenge. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like folks might have extended time off in terms of getting started. It could be really challenging to schedule interviews, or even when someone's, onboarded, getting, the right people in place in terms of training with some of that time off can present some challenges. Nothing you can't work through, but it is something to be mindful of. The
Mhm.
other thing that we typically see in Q4, lots of conversations with candidates around end of year bonuses or bonuses paying out in early Q1. If you're a recruiter, that's the bane of our existence, but it is a very real scenario that we talk about
Oh
all
yeah.
through Q4, all through Q1. So it's an opportunity for folks to get really creative in terms of what offers are coming out. If you can provide a sign on bonus, if you can guarantee a bonus for next year, there's a lot of different ways we can think about what that looks like, and how to combat some of those potential
Sure.
challenges.
Yeah, and we see that a ton on the sales side too. I mean, as you
Of
can
course.
imagine, like people are like,
Commission coming out.
especially
Mhm.
for our I'd say actually mostly for enterprise sales folks, and we actually I think have 2 or 3 open requisitions right now for enterprise
Mhm.
account executives where these are longer sales cycles. So they've been working these deals for a year, maybe a little bit more, and they're like, "Hey, I'm closing this quarter 4, and then I can
Mhm.
move." I mean, obviously that like you can't really avoid those things.
You
But I
can't.
think that's also a great reason why, even if you're not going to get a butt in seat in quarter 4, it's a great time to at least start your process so that at least
Completely.
come Q1 of 2025, you're ready to go. Like you're not wasting the first 3, 4 weeks of January starting to figure out your hiring plans, recruiting processes, and then getting somebody
Mhm.
on board. Because then before you know it, you're all of a sudden not bringing somebody on board to like the end of quarter 1, maybe like even if you have
Even
a more
Q2.
complex role like quarter 2. So I think those
Exactly.
are the things to keep in mind.
Mhm.
And just that flexibility too, like being open, even being open with PTO. I think we run in a lot.
Completely.
Like somebody's like, "Hey, I want to start in November, December, but
They have pre-planned time off.
yeah,
Mhm.
my family planned a vacation from like Christmas to New Year's. Will they
Mhm.
honor that?" You guys, I am telling you, if you are watching this, if you're recruiting this time of year, 9 times out of 10, we get that question. I
Completely.
already have a trip planned for the holiday. Will they honor that? Be flexible. If you're a company
Mhm.
and you're watching this and you have like a strict PTO policy,
Make it work.
make it work, right? It's not
Mhm.
worth losing a candidate over if the PTO doesn't kick in for, they need to accrue days, et cetera. Make it work. It's not
Couldn't
worth
agree more.
losing your
It's not.
candidate.
It's
Yeah.
definitely not. It's not
Yeah.
at all. Well, I
Well,
feel like this is a great topic. I
yeah,
mean, I think we talk about this every year in Q4, and we tell similar stories and give similar advice, but it's all true. Recruiting is incredibly cyclical. The things that
totally.
we talk about on a yearly basis, they happen consistently. And so if you're thinking about talent, if you're trying to put your people plan in place for 2025, now's the time to do it. Utilize great partners like Hirewell to help you get there, and craft the right solution. If you have an awesome team built out internally, you can handle all of this on your own. Amazing. But these are the things to be mindful of so that you set yourself up for success next year.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And can't, like I said, can't believe it. October.
Cannot believe it. Where is time going? It's wild.
Well, we're here. You and I are hunkering down now. I'm not
We
going
are. We are.
anywhere. You're now married, so you're not getting married again. Like we're here.
Yeah, I think I'm just getting married once this year. That sounds
Just
right.
one time. Just one time. we'll have a lot more topics to cover for the rest of this year. And I think little preview,
Mhm.
we're really excited. I know Hirewell's been creating a lot of content around our, do you still call it newish, newer,
Newish.
newish,
Newest
newest.
practice?
That's
Yeah.
there. It's our
Yeah.
newest practice, our cannabis practice. So
Very
stay tuned. We're
exciting.
really excited. In one of our next shows, hopefully it's the next one, but in one of our next shows, we'll keep breadcrumbing you along. We're gonna have Scott Wells, the leader of our cannabis practice, on the show. So really excited to have him on, and
So
hope
excited for
that
that.
y'all will tune in.
Yeah, exactly, and a little more breadcrumbing before you wrap up.
Yeah.
Scott was actually a previous client of ours. So
Yes.
he worked with us as a client, now he's an employee. I mean, talent acquisition can be a full cycle process in many, many ways, but talk about full cycle, having a client become an employee of ours. We're so
Crazy.
excited. Scott's been a great addition to our team, so we're excited to have him on the show. Like you said,
Yeah, so
hopefully
full circle. Well, I should write that down. We should make sure to ask him about that.
yes.
He must have had such a good experience working with us that
It
he had to
has
come work
been the
for us.
best.
Yes. We'll save it though. That's a wrap. That's it.
That's a wrap. All we
That's
have.
it. Let's take it home. It's a wrap for this week's episode of the Hirewell Update. Thank you all so much for joining us. As a reminder, you can find all of our content at talentinsights.hirewell.com. Or if you'd like to learn more about Hirewell and our service offerings, check out our website. It's www.hirewell.com. We'll be back next Wednesday around noon Central. Congrats again to you, Ryan, Julian, if you're watching. I'm sure your husband watches our show.
Oh, biggest fan.
We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Have a great one.